that rolled out of our way.
Hello.
That put me a little bit behind. As you can tell, it's kind of gotten dark and I got bugs attacking me here. You know, last video I ran out of parts, I ran out of tools, and I ran out of luck. This time I'm hoping I at least have parts and tools. I'm not going to count on getting any luck back, but we're going to see what we can do about getting this ball joint in this side. And then tomorrow morning I'll see if I can't just swap the other ball joint. Well, my tool stack wasn't perfect, but I rigged up something. I have enough bits and pieces in my kit now to rig things. There's a specialized angle tool for this, which I don't have. But I think this will come close enough. Oh yeah, we're sucking right on in. All right, if I can get the bugs out, because half these bugs are bees, in case you wonder why I'm acting a little bit nervous. All right, let's get it partially. Can't seat the whole thing with a hammer. All right, well, if everything works right, I can just start cranking this down and you'll see this close the gap. Kind of working right. I need a little more leverage. That's way down there. Oh yeah. It's where an impact wrench would be handy, but since I'm not working on a 2-post lift, I'd have to dig a hole to do an impact wrench. I got an excavator. That'd be tempting. Well, that's going pretty good. A few more cranks, we'll have it seated. Now, I cheated. I didn't actually take this apart. I didn't want to mess with the steering components right now. So we're just going to lift this whole thing up, put this knuckle back together. All right, I'm gonna go get a torque wrench and we're actually gonna torque that down to 72 foot-pounds. That way we're doing it right. Plus I gotta go find a much bigger socket because that's not a 7/8. And in case you folks wondered, I do actually tend to torque some stuff. Like things that could kill you if they fall apart. Now, you gotta get these castle nuts lined up with their holes. So what you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and tighten it a little bit further until you get lined up with a hole. Because you don't wanna loosen them. I don't think we actually have to do anything. Huh. We're lined up right there. Ball joints are back in. Now I just have to get the rest of this in. Looks better already. Okay, here's where I normally would tell you, put some anti-seize on your splines before you put your bearing on them. So the factory didn't do that. Therefore the splines are seized. That's why you put anti-seize on them. So I've got to install this thing as one big unit. This is much harder. All right, I had to go looking down in here. That seal you can see way back up in there, that was actually turned sideways and hanging out in the axle tube. And this little spacer right here, oh, let me get that light off. This little spacer right here had come loose and was sitting sideways in the axle tube. So I was having a really hard time putting the axle back in. It was like there was stuff in the way, because there was. Using my Harbor Freight Icon light here. This gotta be the handiest little flashlight. I know my wife talked it up a couple videos back, but it's my favorite flashlight too. So let's see if this goes any better this time. It may not. Oh. Apparently when you don't have stuff turned cockeyed in the axle tube, it's not that hard to put in. Yeah, I'm actually putting Loctite on these too, because you do not want these bearings to come loose, especially while driving down the road at the speeds my wife likes to travel. We're making progress. We are going Put a little Loctite here. So this is one of the things you should always do when doing wheel spacers. Loctite them. You do not want these backing off. Because that's the number one problem with wheel spacers, is they'll back off where you can't see them, and then they'll get loose, and then they're dangerous. Alright, let's just kind of ease this down. Now then we just need to take our brake caliper right here, unhook our bungee cord here. Brake caliper was a little tight, so we're just going to use this tool to compress it back just a little bit. That should be enough. We don't got to go a lot back. It's a handy little tool though. Beats the heck out of a C-clamp. Now then, we fit on there much easier. Take our big brake bolt here. Yeah, these tires and wheels are nothing if not a touch heavy. Let's get it off the jack. It's about 10 o'clock at night. So I'm going to do the other side tomorrow morning. And it is morning. It's actually after lunch already. It's not going so smooth, but got one more ball joint to get done, so we're going to see if we can't knock this out. I have help today, so this will be fast.
I don't know how much help I'm going to be, but we'll see.
It'll be fast. All right. Get that rolled out of our way.
Hello.
Your tires are heavy, by the way.
Well, and I'm
and
getting it
the
stuck.
lug is hung. Got a lug hung.
You're not helping.
The joint's actually not that bad. Doesn't have any wiggle, but since the other one wore out, we might as well change this one. The rubber doesn't look good on the top one, but there's no wiggle on it. We'll see how bad it is when we actually get into it, though. All right, well, if any luck, we can, hey, that come off. Can you hand me that bungee over there so I can hang this? Because this is doubly bad to let this one dangle. It's not only the brake line, it's also your speed sensor. Okay. And this is a lot heavier part than it ought to have to be. Tip, when torquing this down and so happy everything works, make sure this bracket's actually attached. Just say, you'll thank yourself for that. This is where we discovered we didn't want to go to the auction last time. What, about
At least not the Jeep.
Not in the Jeep. Yeah, we went to the auction, but about 45s when it started last time.
Yep. Solid.
Well, it's just as good as it used to.
Except the wind.
Yeah, yeah, that wasn't the Jeep. That was just 30, 40 mile an hour gust. So when we get back, you want to get Yoda out and see if we can make him fire up?
Yep. Sure. Sounds good. We're going to try to get this Yanmar tractor that I've nicknamed Yoda because it's green, and yeah, that takes a whole lot of...
It has a Y in there. It's little. It's little and cute, she said. She's leaving that part out.
Has a whole lot of imagination there to call him Yoda.
But we were hoping this was just given up on and it's a real easy fix.
So the fuel filter housing, or fuel bottle.
Yeah. Bowl. It's a housing.
Was cracked. And
not a drop of diesel was left in this. We're actually hoping the reason this didn't run is just all the diesel ran out and there's no prime. You think we can be that lucky? Tell us in the comments if you think we'll ever be that lucky.
So where did you find parts?
eBay.
eBay.
So
what year model?
The 79.
79. I like it because it's a little tractor and I think it could help me doing yard work.
It could definitely be a good little garden tractor because it is a full 3-point hitch. It'll run a tiller, a plow, or anything. I'm going to proceed to do the right thing, definitely the wrong way. I will come back and put a good gasket on it once I figure out a gasket. But tonight we just want to see if this will run. So it's just going to get a little bit of RTV right here. Because that O-ring that came with it is just too thick.
I just realized our tank is plastic.
Yeah.
Yay.
Let's hope for the best there. What could go wrong? Well, I found my diesel cans, and when I told Sarah that we had diesel, apparently our diesel heater was thirstier than I remembered it being. Because we don't got no diesel.
So we're gonna run out of daylight, and we'll see you in the morning. I think we might need another dump.
Well, once again, we got a little bit more behind.
This is not appropriate gear for working on a tractor. But it is appropriate gear when you're dealing with the wonderful world of bees.
Let's see if diesel runs out everywhere. That could be our next problem. All right, check for diesel running out.
Hold these, you pull the tank out.
There's the tank. And the next question is it the tank leaking or is it the fitting? Beads up. All right, so all we gotta do is take this and poke it out the hole in the bottom of this. It has to poke out down here. You see why I said this is a mite tricky? Unless you can fit your hand in there. Is this a case where a small hand you still can't do?
Yeah, I got an idea though.
I do too. Not my first rodeo.
Oh, I see what you're doing. You're gonna use it like a bougie.
Uh-huh. And if I can do this right, use gravity as my friend.
And no, this is not the final color of the final paint job. Might end up being the color, but it's not the final paint job.
No, this is just, hey, let's get the sun to stop rotting the tank while the tank's still in one piece. See, and that is how you put one of those back into your tank.
It's actually kind of pretty cool.
You can say, not my first rodeo in some of this stuff.
So we cut a little washer out of this rubber.
Yeah, some EPDM rubber.
Yep.
It's fuel safe, so obviously in the bottom of a gas tank it needs to be fuel safe. We're watching right here. This one I can't get crack free, so. Okay. Not getting any up there yet. Let's see, maybe I don't have this loose enough.
Well, as much gunk was in everything else.
We're going to give it just a little whiff of ether. We don't want to get too much in there. And we're going to say,
Like almost wants to kick off.
and the thunking you're hearing is actually the pulley up front. It's not the engine knocking. It's got a belt drive system for a belly mower that makes some excessive noise right now that we probably want to disconnect at some point until we actually need it for something. That was running on its own for a second. But that white smoke you're seeing, that's diesel. guess what?
Sweet.
She's a runner. Probably not going to happen this weekend, but now I need to get all the wiring done, fluid in it, and then we need to actually run it for a little while and get this diesel cycling through it a bunch to clean out that injector pump, because it was full of some gunk. So we need fresh diesel running through it a bunch of times. But I'm pretty sure both of the cylinders seem to kick in. And it sure shut off from this, so if it's running on ether, you can't kill it by just turning the throttle off.
Ah.
And it went way beyond what it would run on ether. A little smoky yet, but then again, we don't know what condition those cylinders were in just then. Because this may have, to be honest, I mean, that battery was dead zero. This thing may not have been started in, 10, 15 years. This may have been somebody's barn.
Well, and so another thing we need to do is like run some cleaner through it, get some
cleaner
heat treatment to get any
now
water that was in the lines.
Now I will tell you, what was coming out of that injector was milky looking. So I'm afraid there was some moisture in that injector pump. So that's probably not going to make it run the best for a little while. We'll get some heat treatment and some diesel treatment through it and hopefully clean out that injector pump without having to take it apart. Because I don't really want to take an injector pump apart unless I absolutely have to. While you see me do a lot of things on this channel, that's not one of them I want to do.
Well, despite the bees, we've managed to get the ball joints on the Jeep. We've got Yoda started. Not technically running yet.
Still another day to go. Weekend's not done.
Yep.
And I'm going to work on the Cherokee here in a minute. So. All right. Well, you may be able to tell I've got some lights on, but it got dark. The swarms kind of pushed us behind today. And Sarah had to go cover a 12-hour night shift on the ambulance. So I'm back by myself. I'm going to be in here trying to work on this Cherokee. I know the engine's not working, but I'm going to take a look at this rear end, because this pinion angle, so just evaluating it. I think that shock is a little bit wore out, and all four shocks are the same way on this truck, so that could be a problem. All right, well, let me show you what's going on here. Okay, you see, there's a pretty steep angle in this drive shaft right here. It breaks over pretty good. My tail shaft angle is about a minus 7.3 right now. Okay, you see this is just a single classic U-joint, as opposed to up here on the front. Let's see how well you can see it. The double cardan. Well, this one, this differential is pointed up so far, it's actually cocked like that. Well, this is another single joint U-joint. The problem with that is this is an extreme vibration situation. I can't believe somebody has done this, because if you look at this center line, you're looking at basically 19 degrees. What this one should sit at is about maybe that angle. And that way this would be the opposite angle of this one up here. Now why this is occurring is because somebody purposely put these angle wedges in back here. In fact, they made them. It looks like they're homemade angle wedges. Our mission tonight is to undo this. Should be as simple as taking these wedges out. Well, sort of. Okay. Here is the wedge that somebody intentionally made Well, upon further review, I'm not going to be driving this vehicle as soon as I thought. While the brakes do seem to work, I don't see how. I mean, they're not too scored up, but if you look here, there isn't a pad left. There is even okay, I guess maybe that's a hint of a pad. This is just completely metal. I'm going to have to do a complete brake service on this rig. Good thing I got that brake machine. Okay, well, the pinion angle is now much better looking. That's not going to be in such a bind. You're not going to get the vibration. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. But as you saw, the shocks are gone. There are no brakes to speak of. So, to be honest, this project's on hold for a little while, waiting for parts again. It seems like I do a lot of waiting for parts. So we'll revisit this next weekend. Well, after seeing those brakes, I'm not sure how this truck's stopping. Well, after that, I'm not going to be driving this truck this week apparently. So I'm going to wait for parts, and then I'll do the engine, put that crankshaft sensor in next weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way for now. I am gathering up parts for next weekend's project. This is a 302 block. It's not perfect. See, I'm gathering up parts for next week's project. This is the 302 block, and while it's got some wear on it, it's not perfect, it will run. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I need to have my lift back. And I know everybody's been wondering when I was going to work on this Bronco again. Well, I'm going to start putting this engine together over here. So I'm also got to start gathering up all the supplies that I need. Let me take you in here and show you what I got. Is a big pile of 302 parts from a fuel injected 302. Now that's pretty much everything you'd want to put a 302 together with fuel injected, except part of it's rusted out, so it's not that great. Now, I have a couple more 302 heads and valve covers in here. This is a 28 ounce harmonic balancer. Now, unfortunately for me, this crank in here is a 50 ounce crank, one of the older ones. But I have a 28 ounce crank, flywheel, and harmonic balancer in there in that fuel injected block. Now that block, one of the cylinders has a hole in it. Now I do have a sleeve, and I do have a boring bar, and I could sleeve it. But I have a block I'm not using. So I'm thinking you guys are going to get to see me do a dingle ball hone next weekend. Or the weekend after if I don't get all the parts in. But I'll do a dingle ball hone, show you how to make your engine real quick that you can go out and play with. Now, it's not going to be the final engine this Bronco gets, but it's going to be the engine that lets me drive it for a while. So, we'll see how that goes. Oh, let me show you what else I've got for it. Alright, well I do have a few parts in already. I'm still waiting for Rock Auto, which that's okay. They saved me a lot of money. Now I got a second Rock Auto order out there with my Jeep parts. You know what they say, make payments or buy parts. But I'm going all out for this Bronco build. I got a brand new Chinese carburetor. But it looks just like an original out of the 1970s. Kind of. Close enough. It's got electro choke and everything. What more could you want? I think that will power that real nicely. And I actually have, since I'm using a lot of that fuel injected one, and that block out there doesn't have an intake on it, I actually have an old 289 motor that's seized up, but it's got a really nice looking Edelbrock intake on it. And a 289 intake will fit a 302. This is going to be an interesting build. This is like 4 motors becoming one with some Chinese knockoff parts. You don't want to miss this build. Now, it's also going to get an HEI distributor. So I'm throwing in a little GM technology. You know, the Chevy boys ought to be happy with that. Ford's getting Chevy parts. But this is a 302 version of an HEI distributor. And yeah, it's an Amazon one too. We'll hope it works. I'll be putting links to all this stuff down in the description this time and when I actually put them in, just in case you guys want to try it. Now here is the air cleaner I'm going to top it off with. Just a $20 Edelbrock air cleaner. Nothing special. But I do know at least this will work. Carburetor and HEI, we're going to find out together. But very little can go wrong with a 10-inch air cleaner. All right, well, at the moment I am out of weekend and out of parts. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next weekend.